The South Carolina Gamecocks' football game against Clemson at Williams-Brice Stadium saw former President Donald Trump make an appearance. The reaction, as is microcosmic of the United States of America, was mixed. When escorted via SUV, the boo birds were quite loud. And quite simply, when Donald Trump was invited by South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster, it was the hypocrisy that never ceases. Republicans around the country strategically riding the coattails of a disgraced former president for clout. Literally, look at McMaster. Check out how long he holds his hand on Trump's back. Check out the cues he takes from the ex-president. He's getting dog-walked here, guys. He stops when Trump stops. He heals when Trump signals him to do so. The lack of kahunas these men have, just astonishing as much as it is pathetic. Meanwhile, as he entered the city, this was his greeting. Some even raised a finger or two. Another billboard would read, "You lost. You're guilty. Welcome to Columbia, Donald." As the Daily Beast notes, South Carolina will be one of the first states to vote in the primary contest for the GOP presidential nomination, with its primary date set for February 24th. Its governor, Henry McMaster, endorsed Trump in the contest over his predecessor, Nikki Haley. Now, former Republican representative by the name of Henry Curbelo had a far different take on all of this when he was speaking to the masses on MSNBC. Masses might be the wrong word there. The reason he's in South Carolina is because Donald Trump's a little worried about Nikki Haley. Curbelo represented Florida's 26th congressional district from 2015 to 2019. She's been growing in the polls, and he has to face her one-on-one in some of these early primary states. She could give him a run for his money, Curbelo said. This was echoed by Scott Huffman, a political science professor at Winthrop University. Good tourney team there. I think it's a sign that he's taking South Carolina seriously, Huffman said. Of course, recent polls show Haley has gained ground on Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. A Washington Post Monmouth University poll of Republican primary voters in New Hampshire found Haley was the second favorite, with 18% supporting her compared to 46% backing Trump. DeSantis polled in fifth place. Oddly enough, this game was between who? The Clemson Tigers, the South Carolina Gamecocks. Nikki Haley, let's talk about her. The woman who changed her name to be more white passing, represented South Carolina as governor. Where did she go to school? Clemson. Who was not in attendance? Nikki Haley. I find that to be pretty surprising. They could have had a campaign stop. They could have had other plans. Scheduling might have conflicted. But to have both of those factors play into a presidential candidate and for them not to show up, I actually think that speaks volumes. And this is not picking a side. I have to be very clear about this. It's just odd. Iowa starts the Republican nomination process with caucuses on January the 15th. The New Hampshire primary follows on February 23rd. The winner of the Republican primary often goes on to win the nomination. As Trump did in 2016, he won South Kakalaki with 32.5% of the vote, 10 percentage points ahead of Marco Rubio and Rafael Ted Cruz. In addition, McMaster ascended to the governor's office in 2017 when Trump elevated Haley to United Nations ambassador, where she embarrassed herself. Lindsey Graham, and Nikki Haley have mostly been allies over the years, but both men now back Trump. And the former president enjoys a wide polling lead among Republican primary voters. That includes nationally and in early nominating states like South Carolina. Let's talk about the broader issue at play here, and that affects all of us, which is the sheer hypocrisy of sports and politics. Going over a few of the games that Donald Trump has attended: the 2015 Cy-Hawk game, 2016 Army-Navy, 2018 College Football Playoff National Championship game, Army-Navy in 2018, LSU-Alabama in 2019, Army-Navy in 2019, College Football Playoff National Championship in 2020, Army-Navy in 2020, and then the Cy-Hawk game once again in 2023. Now, what do I mean by this? I mean, when you have someone as the head of state, the commander-in-chief, who says there should be no politics in sports, they should be separate, separate the two. What LeBron James is doing is terrible. Anthony Davis taking a knee, terrible. Colin Kaepernick taking a knee, terrible. And yet, what do we have? A politician, a former president, who is indicted, roaming the sidelines, taking a lap around a football stadium where South Carolina hosts Clemson. If we do not see the sheer hypocrisy in these moves, I don't know what to tell you. It should not be sports and politics for me, none for thee. It's called being consistent and having that consistent point, whether it is through your actions or your rhetoric. And if you don't, you get called out like this and you make an ass of yourself. I don't know how people don't see it. And yet here we are once again. The Republican Party, ladies and gents, the ultimate hypocrisy. It never ends.